When I first started learning about ancient Rome as a kid, the story I heard was that Augustus found Rome of clay, turned it to marble, and bam, 150 years of golden age. And yet, if you look at the first 5 emperors, the ones related to Augustus, between King of Dress-Up and Teen Angst Antichrist, you've got 2 emperors popularly considered to be some of the worst rulers in all of human history, and then you've got like 3 back-to-back civil wars in a single year. Of course, I later learned that Nero's administration was actually quite popular, and Rome's entire history is a superposition of greatest empire in the world and fuming garbage fire, but still, if Augustus was so smart, and the rules of succession were flexible enough to simply adopt the most qualified candidate in the family, whose idea was it to put this dunderhead in charge? This episode is sponsored by a company that begins with M and ends with Magellan TV. I'm not the only one with a kick for the classical world. They've got so many documentaries on Rome, but there's 2 I want to recommend today. Caligula, Paranoia and Brutality in Ancient Rome is an interesting look at the famous monstrosity that everyone remembers him for, as well as a psychological picture of the man himself. I kind of made this video as a prequel of sorts, so I highly recommend you check it out at the end. If you're in the UK or Canada, you might need a VPN to watch that one, so I'll also shout out I, Caesar, which gives you an account of Rome over 500 years through the lens of 6 famous rulers. And you can watch everything for free by signing up for a 30-day trial of Magellan TV at magellantv.com/JackRackham. Link in the description. So Augustus smacks down Mark Antony and starts working on his new empire, and as a way to hold on to power in the future, he created the Praetorian Guard, his own personal legion. Well, all of the legions were his personal legion, but his more personal legion that kept him safe and kept the peace in Rome. And he topped it off with some checks and balances. He made it a little smaller than a normal legion, and he put 2 people in charge that both reported directly to him. Then he dies, Tiberius takes over and throws those checks and balances right out the window. He names as his solo Praetorian commander a man named Sejanus. Sejanus makes the legion larger and more centralized, and Tiberius loves it, parades them around town like, "Tee-hee, I own the police, do what I say or I break you." Now, Tiberius at that point had 2 sons, and the man who was supposed to take his place instead of Caligula was Germanicus, and that is the kind of name you only get by being a hero. Germanicus is like Roman Superman. Even while Tiberius was still alive, he inherited the eastern provinces in preparation for the day he'd take his father's place, and he was already negotiating with the Emperor of Parthia as an equal. He charged into the dark forests of Germania and avenged Teutoburg Forest. He was becoming a legend to rival Augustus himself. And then he died mysteriously. Now, this wasn't Sejanus. Germanicus himself blamed a guy named Piso, because I swear to God, every emperor has a Piso trying to kill him, but the future of Rome definitely looked darker without him. But there was still hope in his brother Drusus. Drusus was not the mythopoetic hero that Germanicus was, but he's fine. You know, he's fine. A little unruly in his youth, but he had Tiberius to straighten him out by giving him a governorship for practice. Look, of course it's corrupt. It's a hereditary monarchy. What do you expect? But when he got his second consulship, there were the makings of a fine politician about him. He was stepping up to solve disputes, and he was on the path to fill his father's shoes. And then he died mysteriously. See, after Germanicus died, Drusus was the heir, but Sejanus was the second in command, and, I might add, a very obvious gold digger trying to worm his way into the royal family by marrying off his daughter to Claudius's son. Claudius had another son, by the way. Does anyone else find that wild? All kinds of fun what-if scenarios you could come up with about Nero never getting the empire if that kid made it into adulthood. None of them very likely, but I digress. That never panned out because the kid died in just the dumbest way. You know that thing where you throw up a piece of popcorn and you catch it in your mouth? This kid tried that with a whole-ass pear and lodged it down his windpipe. Okay, but Sejanus has other plans. Tiberius is getting old, and Drusus has been on to him since they first met, so this is going to be a delicate operation. Luckily, Sejanus has been romancing Drusus's wife and gets her to poison him. So now, instead of either of these 2 accomplished statesmen, the only heirs left are literal children. I mean, look at that baby face. Apparently they were also bodybuilders, but my point stands. If something happens to Tiberius, the empire is royally screwed, but still not Caligula levels of screwed. Germanicus left behind his wife Agrippina, no, not that one, but her mother, who was, well, a lot like her daughter. Her sons were already the heirs to the throne, but she kinda wanted them to be emperor now, and she was really bad at being subtle about it. She had 3 sons. Nero, no, not that one, but by God, he has the exact same neckbeard. Drusus, because the family tree wasn't confusing enough already, and little baby Gaius in his cute little soldier boots. Alright, so Tiberius is checked out at this point. He's going back to his private island to mourn, and now in Rome, you've got Sejanus running everything with his supporters, and you've got Agrippina and her supporters as the opposition party. And again, Sejanus tries to make a move, asking, "Hey, big man, so, you know, your dead son left a wife behind. Do you think I can have her and just, slide on into the family? Just think of me as your dead son, but less dead." And believe it or not, that did not go over well. The one thing that kept him from getting punished on the spot was his remarkable ability to backpedal and go, "Okay, well, I see I crossed a line, but if you think that's bad, you should see what Agrippina's cooking up." Because luckily, as Tiberius spent less and less time in Rome, the only way he ever got news about anything was if it went through Sejanus. At a certain point, Sejanus just stops giving a crap and starts dragging half the Senate through kangaroo courts and executing them if they don't kill themselves first, until he brings a very important case against Agrippina and Sons to the Senate floor. He can't even dig up any dirt on them, so he ends up accusing Agrippina of having a bad attitude and Nero of being too sexually active under the threat of exile. And Tiberius is like, "Yes, this seems like a very important case. We're gonna need a verdict right away." And so the Senate's like, okay, guilty, I guess, and off they go. So now, with Germanicus dead, Drusus poisoned, another Nero and another Drusus starved to death on remote islands, the empire is left with baby Gaius in his little booties, which, by the way, is what the name Caligula means. He ends up getting held under house arrest in Tiberius's private island, which, if you believe Suetonius, was a pederastic pleasure dome and not the kind of place you want to train the boy responsible for millions of people. It doesn't seem like Suetonius is right on this one, but even so, being used as a political pawn your whole life by your mother, grandfather, and some random dude, and then living with the guy who got your whole family killed is gonna leave some lasting trauma. And everyone in Rome had to live with the consequences of that because, as we all know, Emperor Sejanus is not a thing. He got very close to it though. Even while Tiberius was still alive, he basically held all the strings and people were making statues of him and celebrating his birthday as a public holiday. Being named regent for Caligula or his younger cousin or something would have been pretty easy if it weren't for the fact that Tiberius eventually got some real news delivered to his doorstep. And Tiberius realizes, oh no, I can't let this guy know I'm onto him because he controls the entire empire now. So he comes up with a dramatic comeback that is just oh so Roman. Sejanus gets called to the Senate for a ceremony to give him a special title, and as the senators are reading out the letter from Tiberius, it goes, blah, 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 good job, my guy, big congratulations, okay, now, do it now, seize the dirty traitor. And this new guy comes in with the Praetorian Guard at his back, and they lock him up, strangle him, and toss his body down the stairs. But wait, it gets worse, because now Tiberius is paranoid, so he kills all of Sejanus' kids and tosses them down the stairs. Except for his daughter, because you weren't supposed to kill virgins, so they made her not one anymore, and then strangled her and tossed her down the stairs. And then he goes and purges the Senate of anyone who was too close to Sejanus, which I'll remind you is a lot of people, because anyone who wasn't close enough to Sejanus already got purged the last time. And then Tiberius just pieces out and leaves the empire to run itself when everybody who knew how to run it just got purged, until one day it gets taken over by a mentally unstable 20-something who was only taught how to be afraid of everyone and everything, whose reign involved draining the treasury to pay people not to kill him, building floating palaces, and dressing up as Jupiter. Meanwhile, the Praetorian Guard just realized they had the power to execute the most powerful man in Rome, which of course they did 4 years later after Caligula took power. I'm sure there's a lesson here about harmful actions having rippling consequences for those around you, and often those most innocent are the ones who are harmed the most, but But honestly, I think I just came out of this as a Germanicus fanboy. Where is my Germanicus alt history fanfic?